Here at home of the drones.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey and ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Want to know the truth?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster.
I've
decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
do you have any reason to think they're a threat?
Two quick questions. First,
Greetings. Welcome to Ancient Library. Since we ain't got any official clarification regarding the drone situation and everybody is speculating about the widest of things, I want to give some additional output in form of a list of 5 points of possible or potential explanations for the mass drone sightings, which are at least all over the US, previously most prevalent on the Upper East Coast, but also reported on many US-controlled military bases, mostly in NATO countries. Additionally, we have got an increased rate of UFO/UAP sightings, most prevalent orbs, which can be explained by the higher focus and watch time the night sky has, caused by the highly discussed mass drone sightings. So in other words, more people watch the sky and report more things, which doesn't mean automatically that we ain't got an increased amount of phenomena happening. So the situation is pretty special. For this quick tome, I've brainstormed quite a bit and thought a lot about what the explanation could be, and first I came up with a lot of stuff. After some time and ongoing developments, I was able to render down the list into 5 points, which I want to present briefly with this program. So the first explanation is conventional adversaries. Terrestrial, conventional, non-US operation. Eventually adversary groups like China or Russia, for example. A little more likely if we take today's report serious about US military bases and airports closing airspace due to drone activity. But still very unlikely due to the difficult logistics. And I mean, it's clearly far-fetched considering the proper FAA lighting and the whole nature of this operation. But no one really knows, so this general option is on the table. Some people say they don't shoot to not initiate a third World War. Pretty wild stuff, and I think this explanation got a rather low probability. The second possible explanation, US operations. USAPs, unacknowledged special access programs, US operations involving military assets, personnel and classified tech. So this can mean many things, but mainly encapsulates the most likely origin that it's the US military. Some people are spreading the narrative that these drones are searching for gamma rays, dirty bombs or lost radioactive material. And the government is playing dumb to not cause any panic and fear. I think the most people are leaning towards this explanation, at least in terms of the core origin, that it's the US military conducting whatever mission. And the most affected location is near US military bases on US territory. So this is the most likely explanation, and I will say it's like Occam's razor rank 1 of this list out of 5 points. The third explanation, unidentified, genuine unknown physical or non-physical phenomena involving everything from aliens to autonomous AI systems and advanced NHI. So yeah, I want to remain rather neutral and bring everything on the table, also in connection with the wild 3rd December alien invasion, the alien melee predictions, which were circulating on Reddit, etc. This point includes everything genuinely unknown, for example also including that the drones originate from the ocean and so on. Of course, this point got the lowest probability on this list. So they really don't know what's going on and they just want to minimize panic and fear. But like I said, a pretty low probability. So the next possible explanation, projections, so no physical craft. The US deep state or others are conducting projections via hologram or other advanced exotic technology for creating mass drone sightings without heat signature, etc. So this point is mainly reinforced by the assumed fact that these drones ain't giving any heat signature and that we got no shoot or successful takedowns of the drones. And also reports of very advanced reaction and avoidance of projectiles. Just another theory, also very low probability, but rather more than the extraterrestrials, I guess. So the last explanation on this list. A PSYOP, narrative control or distraction. US operations, but to conduct a PSYOP and look for the public's reaction or I will say it, the fake alien invasion scenario. Combined with the last point, projections to create a Blue Beam-esque scenario. So the core attributes of a psyop and psychological warfare used for distraction or creating and manipulation of a narrative via false flag operations. This point embraces the statement nothing seems what it's like, so precisely parts of the government spreading lies about the matter and the real mission of these man-made drones. This is the middle ground of possibilities. It's way more likely than aliens but less likely than point 1 and 2. So since we ain't getting any official response by the government, it's just natural to be curious, so I'm happy to hear any take or possible explanation which you think is most likely responsible for the 2024 drone madness, which seemingly started somewhere in mid-November of this year. I'm leaning towards point 2 the most, but it would be pretty, I would say, unpolite behavior to troll your own population like that. But there are plenty of reports of DARPA and sub-government contractor groups launching experimental drone programs with craft which looks very similar. But just because it's the most believable explanation doesn't mean it's necessarily the truth. I've done a baseline summary in a previous video about the subject if you're interested. Another question is, what happens next? Will the sightings just end and we will never get any official answer from the government, and this event will remain being fertile ground for all kind of wild stories and conspiracies in the future? I really hope this won't be the case. I know it makes very little sense to think about the next steps while having nearly zero clue about the real reasons why these things are seemingly flying around. The few infos we got are not giving a clear, coherent picture, and the absence of real facts is very problematic. If, for example, they really can turn off or ain't giving heat signature in the first place, are they even running with conventional propulsion? Is this fact really established? There are many statements which are getting thrown around. Another example, the report of a police officer who allegedly saw 50 drones coming out of the ocean. These two things are very important if they are ending up to be real facts, so who knows what's real anymore? Is it all just a benchmark to test the public and to watch the flow of information? You see, the spiral of speculative ideas never ends, but at the same time the search for the truth goes on.
Here at BYU, in the holography group, we are working to create the displays of science fiction. Displays like the holodeck from Star Trek or the Princess Leia projector from Star Wars. So most displays, including 3D displays, require you to look at a screen. But our technology creates images that are floating out in space, and they're physical. The way our new optical trap technology works is that we have a laser beam. It traps a little particle in the air, and then that beam moves around and it drags that particle around with it. And then if we move it fast enough, we will see the entire image all at once. Most of these images we created were done with long exposures. We rastered out an image over time. Today, we're able to actually create simple animations. Here are two toys small enough to fit in our current display volume. So they are teeny tiny. This dot is a trapped particle. So it's being held by an invisible laser beam, illuminated by a visible laser beam to form the outline of an explosion. Here we see the particle moving back and forth rapidly as it's illuminated to give the effect of a phaser blast or a disruptor charge moving back and forth between the ships. What you're seeing in this scene is real. There is nothing computer generated about it. These are real lasers moving around in space between these two ships. So unlike the movies, where the lightsabers never really existed in physical space, these are actual luminous beams rising from these lightsabers. So this is still just one particle. Drawing both these lightsaber beams is just moving fast enough that it can change location and change color. And it would happen in real time as the battle was occurring. And we've used our display to draw in the air a little stick figure. So here we have our stick man walking across the surface of a student's finger. We did want to show how this type of image could interact with a human. A volumetric display, like our display, is different than other types of 2D and some 3D displays in that it doesn't have a screen. Because our images are made from glowing particles inside a fixed volume, we can really only draw images inside that volume.
So if, for example, I wanted to display a mountain and I wanted it to look like the size of a real mountain, I would have to build a volumetric display the size of a mountain.
In our most recent research, we are trying to create images that exist outside our drawing volume. What we've done is we've taken a very small 3D printed house. What we're trying to do is to make the moon look like it exists outside the drawing volume by making that moon track the viewer. We are moving the camera, And we're also moving that moon image that we're drawing in the air in synchrony, so it gives the impression that it's behind the house, when in fact it's being drawn in front of the house.
We can play some fancy tricks with motion parallax, and we can make the display look a lot bigger than it physically is. This methodology would allow us to create the illusion of a much deeper display up to kind of theoretically an infinite size display. And that's all by changing the image as the viewer translates through the scene.
We now have the opportunity, as our images get bigger, to create experiences for the viewer that are beyond our drawing volume. We can create environments that are outside rooms or beyond windows using this technique.